What's going on, everybody? Eric with Deutsche Auto Garage here today with Mr. Noah Clark. Mr. Noah Clark has a C6 Corvette that we just detailed from top to bottom. We fully cut, polished, clay barred, the whole 9 yards, ceramic, everything in between on this particular vehicle. So with that being said, I wanted to interview Mr. Noah Clark because Mr. Noah Clark is a bit of a mysterious figure here. He's a little bit older, but he will definitely whoop your butt in a fight if you tried, so don't try that. He works out and he looks phenomenal. He actually coaches my stepson Black's .302. He goes through all the nutrition and everything with them, and they also work together through social media. So with that being said, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your business. Your first impressions of the car?
Well, as I said, when we were driving up at the corner, I saw her and I says, "Oh my God, she looks beautiful." I didn't know that Eric had this skill set. I knew he was mechanically inclined with automobiles of various types, and German, and I thought in specific. But then one day, I think CJ mentioned that he was detailing his car, and then I saw, and I was like, "Whoa! If you can make black look good, you can do anything."
That's true.
So I approached Eric, and he was getting ready to go on vacation about taking on the C6 because she hadn't had any hands-on whatsoever in terms of paint correction, anything. It was swirls all over it, bumps, bruises, cuts, dirt, and it looks like a new car. I'm honestly astounded. And I've been sharing with, as a bodybuilder, I've been sharing with some of my friends who own Corvettes in the gym today, and I showed them details and referred them to Eric's Instagram. So
Thank you for that.
I'm a true believer, and he's attention to detail. Old people like me, we appreciate that because that means that you sign your name
That's it.
to your work.
That is
so
it.
Once again, Eric, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Amazing job.
Thank you, sir. So for any cars that I do, I try to treat the cars like they're my own. With that being said, if there's a detail that I notice, maybe a rock chip, or in the case of the splitter in the front, the splitter was down a little bit, so one of the tabs had bent down, I'm just gonna go ahead and knock out those details while I'm there. It's just one of those things that if it was your car, would you want those things fixed? And the answer is usually yes. So why not? With that being said, I'm going to ask you a few questions now, if you don't mind, because I've got a few here lined up. I'm going to use my phone to cheat a little bit. All right. So what career did you have before you became a full-time bodybuilder?
Oh, wow. Well, let's see. After college, I went into insurance, and that was in the 80s. And after the 80s, I went into the military. I was working in the area of insurance where Big Steel was in Pittsburgh. And I went into the military, was blessed, went overseas to the Philippines, spent 7 years there, came back to the United States.
What branch?
Air Force.
Air Force, gotcha.
And I spent 2 years working security, didn't want to go back into the insurance business. And I went and applied for the Sheriff's Department and for state corrections. Well, the Sheriff's Department picked me up, and I spent the last 23 years in the Sheriff's Department in Solano County. I worked as a hostage negotiator. I was on the tactical unit. I worked classification gang unit.
So you've seen it all at this point.
I was a training officer. I was president of the union, and spent the last 23 years with the sheriff's office in California. And then we moved here. So I've been here about 5 years.
Been here about 5.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very interesting backstory. I mean, you've been in the military, you've been in the police, you've been at the top of the police, unions, the whole 9 yards. Very, very interesting. So that to me is fascinating to see just the career selection there. I've been around military people my whole life since I was a kid. I started up racing cars, honestly, with other military people, which we probably shouldn't say that.
Oh,
But
cool.
the same people that may or may not have been handing out tickets on base. We may have been doing some other things. I won't say anything.
Right.
But we had some good times back then. That taught me a lot of structure, a lot of like getting along with people that I may not necessarily get along with.
Right.
And so I love the military aspect of it. I think that's fantastic. So the car is obviously phenomenal. I love the yellow. The yellow is what brought it to my attention in the first place and why I was like, yes, I want to detail that car. What brought you to this vehicle? Because I know there was some backdrop about it being on the showroom floor, and I just want to get that captured because I know that was...
So I've got a buddy of mine who in California that they own a winery, and he called me one day. He says, "What are you doing?" I says, "I'm looking for a car." He says, "Where?" I says, "I'm looking online." He says, "You can't look for a car online." And he told me, he says his son, who was at the time going to the University of Villanova to work on his master's, he said, "Well, my son will be home. Let's go out car shopping." So he took me out car shopping, and we spent 4 days driving everything
4
fast
days.
that we could. BMWs, Mercedes, Corvettes, Volvos. Just had a great experience. But I saw this car at a dealership about 10 miles from where I lived, and I kept being drawn to it. And the color, of course, caught my eye, but it was in the showroom for 280 days. And I'm like,
For that
why
yellow?
is this car in the showroom for 280 days? No one wants it. So we go out and I investigate on what type of features the C6 Grand Sport actually had. And I was looking for suspension, braking, and handling in those areas, because I was told that those areas help make a car fast.
Right.
So I went to the dealer, and I already had 2 cars. And, my wife had one, so we had a 3-car family. And I said, well, I like this car, and it's been sitting in the showroom, but it's a depreciating asset.
Yeah.
So, and I've got 3 cars. And the dealer said, well, I'd like to make you a deal. And I said, well, let's talk about that. So he made me a deal, and I said, I don't really like the numbers of that. I said, well, I'll think about it. And I went back and I texted him, and I did some research on 3 other cars in the area that were around the same price. Long story short, I go back to the deal, and I says, my wife, okay, you got to approve this car. Here's what I'm looking for. Let's go test drive it. She test drove it. The dealer came down some of the numbers. I mean, I got her for $37.
Nice. Nice.
And my wife's writing out the check. And I'm looking at her like, she's writing the check. And the dealer looked at me, he says, you don't seem to be happy. I'm like, well, it's a depreciating asset.
Yes.
I got 3 cars. This will be number 4. And like I said, I told Eric earlier that I went to a detailer, and the detailer wanted like $8,000. And he proceeded to tell me how this car was just not really good.
That was in brand new shape.
It was I hadn't even driven it one day. So I was telling her, I put it in the garage, and it sat in the garage for 3 days. I didn't even go and look at it. And my wife said to me, she says, look, you got 2 more days to have this car or keep it.
Right.
So I went out and said, okay, blemishes and all, I'm going to keep the car. So.
And you didn't spring for the $8,000 correction?
Didn't go for the $8,000 correction, because he really made me feel bad that day. I was like, I bought a lemon.
No. So I will say, just as some general knowledge for everybody, when you buy a brand new car from the dealership, it more than likely has been touched by dealership detailers. And those detailers are not going to be the most efficient and careful at cleaning a car. So one that sat there for a little bit could have some swirls on it. It could need some paint correction. I'm not going to say all brand new cars aren't going to need it, but the chances of it needing a full cut and hologram removal and all those other things are extremely low. So if someone's telling you need to spend $8,000, $7,000, $6,000 when you just bought your brand new car, you better be getting a full paint protection film and maybe a personal assistant to go along with it part-time. I don't know personally. So that's my opinion on that one. So I'm glad you didn't spend the $8,000 and you waited a little bit and you got some good results without having to spend all that. And it actually needed some correction and such. So it was money well spent, and I enjoyed working on this sucker. All right, so what has been your favorite thing about this car? And I think I know what it is, but I wanna ask you.
The 436 horses.
436 horses. That adrenaline, the little dopamine hit for just a second, 0 to 60. I'm sorry, 0 to 55. Sorry, we're not insurance.
I'm an adrenaline. Well, my 23 years in the sheriff's office, I'm adrenaline driven.
Right. Yeah, it's just part of the force, right?
I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane at 13,000 feet.
A bit of a chase there. So
yeah, it's when I took off the run flats.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yes. They're nice, but they're very hard.
Yeah.
They're nice as a safety feature.
Yeah.
They're not very nice for the turns, and they're not very nice for comfort or quiet. They're nice to get you home when you had that puncture on the side of the road at 2 a.m.
Yeah. Oh. And the fact that this is a true 60th edition, because I checked the VIN number. So
I was looking at the badges and everything as I was doing them.
I love that. The fact that this is the Z06, this is the Road Track Z06 without the supercharger. And my wife said, no.
Don't need the blower.
We're not getting you a supercharger.
Not yet.
She said, look, we're not 40. We're not 50. I think I bought this. We're pushing 60. Okay, no.
Well, I said personally that once I was in my 30s and I got my Porsche and I had the Lexus, I was like, I'm going to pay someone to work on my cars from now on, and I won't do the things I used to do when I was younger. And I'm sure the story just continues to repeat because I'm definitely still working on cars, and I am definitely still making them faster and cleaner, obviously.
Yeah,
so
yeah, definitely.
It sounds like that cycle's never going to quit. All right, so what is your most memorable trip in this car? So where have you taken it? What was the experience?
I would say to the beach. The beaches here remind me of California. They're not as warm because in the Pacific, but taking us to the beach and and allowing the horses to run on the way home from the beach.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the drop top. I mean.
Yeah, coming back from the beach in this thing, yellow, screaming, kind of a nice summer day.
It was almost perfect. And when I got back in town, there was a gentleman right next to me who wanted to communicate. And we communicated.
Communication means they raced. Wait, no, they didn't race. They just looked at each other. We're just going to go with that. They just looked at each other.
We communicated, and my wife didn't panic.
That's how you know you got the one. I'm just going to say, I won't give any examples, but, there may be some videos on my phone somewhere going a little faster than I should. Oh, but that's what makes it fun, though, especially coming back from the beach because you got that salt air and you can smell it, right, when you're over at the beach. And this with the drop top, I can only imagine.
Oh.
My wife one day will get that drop top. She's after it. She wants it. I think we're going to try and get her into like a TTS or something, a little drop top like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So just have her. She likes a little beep car. She likes to move in the traffic and stuff.
Yeah, like go-kartish kind of. Okay, yeah.
She's one of those that she spots that car gap, she's going to take it. She drove in New York City, Philly, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, okay. So
she's used to driving.
Oh, she knows how to. I wouldn't say aggressively make her position, but.
Be assertive.
You won't find her at a stoplight more than 5 seconds. Like, okay,
I did learn whenever I moved up here. So I'm from Louisiana originally, if y'all didn't know. Down there, it is a much different story with the horn situation. Up here, I learned very quickly that horns are a way to talk, especially when you get into the big cities. Like a single honk just means like, hey, pay attention, you're not doing something. A double honk means like, you're really not paying attention, you need to go. And if somebody just starts blaring on their horn at you, they hate you right now, and you're doing something very bad. So down there in Louisiana, those things didn't really happen, because if you were to honk at somebody aggressively like that, there's a chance they may have a weapon. And so, but up here, it's a whole different ball game. And so I have to remind myself now when I go back down there not to use my horn as a communicator.
Isn't it interesting?
Well, let's talk about something I know you hold dear to your heart, and it's something that has caught my attention. You started recently. So first of all, what are your social media handles and your YouTube handles so everybody has them? So it's Noah Clark.
Noah Clark, the number 5, the letter B as in Baker, and the letter G as in George. My YouTube and my Instagram handles are attached to that, and also you can find me on Facebook through the same vehicle. Actually, I just competed after 21 years of absence from the bodybuilding stage in November of this past year. CJ, who is my videographer, confidant,
Yep.
cheerleader, soldier, he and I teamed up, and we got a winning team. So we're planning on doing another show, and I'm probably going to get him access to backstage. So we're probably going to do a videography of what it looks like at a bodybuilding competition.
Yeah, because you've never really seen behind the scenes. I haven't personally.
And post what goes on. So that'll probably be happening maybe in May or June, that we'll go back on the stage. So that's what I'm actually doing right now. I got my body fat down from 25% down to 10. So at 69 going on 70 here in July, I'm hovering around 10 to 11% body fat. So I'm really amazed that if you do things correctly, then your body will listen to you. And
so let's talk about that, because that's a huge part. CJ came in one day and he was like, I need to buy all these vegetables and fruits, and I'm ready to be clean. And he made his changes. He's been juicing and doing all that. And I've noticed a change in him personally. So let's talk about that for a second. So what is your nutritional routine there? Because you've got a pretty big routine that helps out.
Well, I started vegetarianism, quote unquote, in 1972. I was a...
Wait, hold on. You're a vegetarian, and what's your body fat percentage right now?
Well, right now it was at 10 about 2 weeks ago. I think I bumped up to 11 now because I've been eating freely.
I like that, eating freely. I'm going to remember that term.
But I'm getting ready to kind of pull the belt back in now.
Yep.
Because I want to get below 10 for the next show. I'm just sort of challenging myself. But I modulated my eating routine and my eating of clean foods to the concept of keeping my blood clean, eating to keep your blood clean. So what does that mean? That means identifying what's mucus building and watching the starchy fats, the starchy carbohydrates rather, and then including in some of the essential fats into your program. Your brain is fatty tissue, so it needs good, healthy, clean fats. Fats will also protect your body from eating your protein. So the body's going to eat. It's going to eat something when you work out, when you exercise, when you're moving. So what you want to do is you want to increase your protein enough so that you can protect your fats and have enough fibrous carbohydrates to not build dietary fat and enough starchy carbs to fuel your workout to put glucose into the muscle cells. But in 2012, my body was going through what they call andropause, which is the male identification of menopause for women. Your hormone levels are fluctuating.
Right. I didn't know there was a men's side of this.
Yeah, it's called andropause.
Learned something new today.
Another term they use is sarcopenia, which is muscle wasting. So those two things happen. Your cells don't work as efficiently as they used to. And then, according on what type of nutrients you're putting in, if you're putting it in a food that's going to give you dense nutrients, or if you're going to putting in a food that's giving you almost no nutrients, and it's just all chemicalized.
He's talking about McDonald's, by the way.
Chemical-based.
Don't eat McDonald's or fast food.
It's really not food. It's a faux food, and whatever your body doesn't recognize, it attacks. Your immune system attacks it. So that's why a lot of these inflammatory diseases, I think most inflammatory diseases are caused from what you're putting inside your body and your body's response to that. So I was going through andropause and I was getting soft, I was getting soft. And I was like, whoa.
And you know your muscles, so
Yeah.
you know when something's
And
supposed
I
to
was
be right
like,
or not.
other areas, libido, gets affected. You're getting older. So
Right.
in order to reverse that, I've been researching raw juicing. That means juicing through a blender or a juicer, fruits and vegetables, and ones that actually would stimulate and regulate my hormone flow. So I gave myself 3 months, and my objectives were to increase my antioxidant ability, because you want your body to stop the flow of cortisol, to increase my hydration, to decrease my systemic inflammation, to increase my protein intake that my body would actually assimilate. And the fifth thing that happened, which I was surprised and didn't plan for, is that I had no bloating. So that was the biggest surprise, that my body didn't, after a meal, I didn't bloat. I didn't feel I had to.
You didn't swell up or anything like that.
I didn't have to loosen the belt to have to do work. And I was working at a gym in Napa, and a lot of my clients were like, "How are you going to get big with this juice?" But after 3.5 months, they were looking at me and they were like, "Well,
It's actually working.
are you still drinking that swamp water,
Swamp water.
that pond scum?" I mean, they had all kind of names for it, because I would bring it to my workout. And they were like, "You can eat your breakfast and work out too?" The beauty of juicing is that your body already broke it already down. So it wasn't hard for digestion. So here are the phases: ingestion, digestion, assimilation, and elimination. If your body isn't officially doing all those phases, then what happens is your body isn't working like the machine that it is. It takes about 30% of your body's energy to eliminate all the waste from your body. And that's not talking about the natural waste. You're talking about your cellular waste, because muscles excrete waste. Every muscle cell excretes waste. And what you don't want is, you don't want that muscle cell, the permeability of the muscle cell, to get too hard so that waste can't be expelled. So that's why hydration is important, meal timing is important. And the benefit of me juicing was I was able to work with, I know 7 different people who I put on my juicing routine, and they went to their doctors, and they came back and they told me like 3 months later, 4 months later, that the doctor was saying their blood work had just dramatically changed. And what were they doing? And they said, "Well, I found this crazy old guy, and he was doing this juicing routine, and I followed his juicing routine." So these were just anecdotal stories that people just came up and said, "Hey, I appreciate what you did for me. You probably didn't know, but I was listening to everything you said. I tried what you were doing." And the fact that it worked for me, I've got my doctor records and my blood drawn to see that, hey, at this stage,
Right.
I'm still okay.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah. So that's took me into the bodybuilding stage, and then you have to do other things for bodybuilding. So I'm in a stage where I'm percentages. I'm kind of low juicing percentage right now, but I'm keeping my blood clean. I'm eating to keep my blood clean, and I'm physically bigger now than I was when I was actually doing 12 years of competing in Cali.
Wow. So I think a good analogy would be you wouldn't put bad gas in your car, right? I think that's a good one. So if you're into
Exactly.
cars, you shouldn't be putting bad food into yourself. You wouldn't put bad gas into your car. Why put the crappy food into yourself?
Exactly. If you want it running efficiently and at a high level.
Right. I think a cheat every once in a while, like if you've done really good for a couple of weeks, meh.
Exactly. Reward yourself.
Right, reward yourself.
You reward yourself. But
treat yourself.
What you'll find is your desire for the bad stuff, as it were, will be less and less and less. And you'll be on the high side. So you'll be like 95%. And if you're 90% good, hey, the 5%, I mean.
Right. Yeah.
You throw those numbers out.
You only live once, right? You only live once.
Exactly.
Well, my last question I think I'm going to ask you before we get out of here today, and I let you take your vehicle, is what part of the refresh do you like the most? So whether it be the wheels, the interior, the glass, I don't care. What part do you like the most and why?
Well, the first part I was impressed with was the seats.
The seats.
I mean, that was the first thing. That's the first thing that I drew. I said, whoa. Those look healthier.
Right.
For the lack of a better term.
No, you absolutely nailed it.
They looked healthier. And I was like, whoa, if he can do that to that.
Imagine what everything else I
exactly.
Can do. Yes.
So when I saw the first detail, when you were saying, okay, I clay barred this, and I was like, oh man, I know you could do that. But then I saw the last one where the lights were shining in the paint, and I was like, oh.
The one where I pointed just at the light.
Yeah.
No words, just music.
Right.
Just let the work speak.
And for some reason, it looks healthier.
It does. It looks darker. It
looks
glossier.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does.
And especially because this car has a fiberglass tub.
Right.
And all the panels and everything are very hard to read with a normal meter. So just to start off with that. But that cut that we did, whenever we did the cut, that yellow, what you were seeing as it got lighter yellow on the surface is damage from the sun, right? So as I cut and remove that damaged area, you're going to see that darker yellow beneath it, the way it was when it was brand new, come out. Right. And so basically what we've done is expose the paint, the clear coat. Right. Not necessarily the paint, the clear coat. Let me be specific because I don't want somebody to burn down the YouTube channel thinking I'm over here just taking paint off. So yeah, the clear coat itself, we cut that down and we polish it. And the idea is that you're going to expose fresh clear coat that hasn't seen the sun yet. And so that clear coat will no longer have the yellowing on it that you would normally see on top. Now that there also is a caveat to that. If you don't know how much clear coat and paint you're working with, you need to be extremely careful. So on this vehicle, for example, we found a couple of spots at the bottom of the vehicle, so not really a big concern, where the clear coat had already been chipped away from it's just a 13-year-old car, right? So make sure your detailer understands that what they're working with. If your detailer doesn't pull out a paint meter, or your detailer doesn't walk around the car with you and show you, like, these are the problem areas that we may run into, you probably should find a new detailer. So, as far as that goes, the yellow, the banana yellow, banana runs yellow. I absolutely love it. So, and I love the headlights. The headlights I thought were really cool on this. I did put another layer of clear coat on top of them, like I was talking about on the tail lights as well, and then I ceramicked them as well. So you've got some extended time on the headlights before they start to show any kind of wear. But thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for allowing me to detail your car and to get it from top to bottom. And as a sign of appreciation and a thank you, your first maintenance wash is free. So the next time it needs to be washed, just let me know, and I will take care of it the first time, no charge. So, and then past that, if you ever want me to wash it again, you just let me know. But the first time it gets dirty enough where you say, I need it washed now, the wheels, the whole 9 yards, I'm not going to take off the wheels and ceramic coat and do all that stuff. But the maintenance wash itself, the interior and all that, yes, we'll take care of that. So.
Well, and in closing, I like to say that your attention to detail is old school.
Thank you.
And if you guys don't know what that means meticulous attention to every detail. And that's what you want in a detailer. Like Eric said, he's going to treat your car like it's his. You can't lose with that.
Of course, the airplane's going to come in right now. What happens when you live on a flight path, right? Don't worry, every time I try to film, one just randomly pops up. Yeah, I've gotten used to them. I've done some work for the state police and E911 in the state.
Oh,
so
no. That's cool.
I've met a few people, I guess. But
okay.
Yeah, so the maintenance watch, like I said, it's included. If you have any problems or if you spot anything, let me know. I'll be more than happy to touch it up. But I've gone through this thing pretty extensively, as you've seen and you saw today.
Yeah.
The only things that I talked to you about that I would definitely address on the vehicle is the sweating oil pan. At some point, it's not a rush.
Yeah.
Just the oil pan, the gasket, the lower oil pan specifically starts to break down over time. It's 13 years old now.
Right.
And so it's not dripping oil onto the ground. Like it's not like a mess or anything. It's just as the engine's running and it's heating up and cooling down, you'll get a little bit of sweat and it just kind of sticks and coats the bottom of that pan. So if you look above it in that video I sent, you'll see there's no oil up there at all. And that's a good sign. That's what we want to see, because that means there's no camshafts leaking or a crankshaft seal or something like that. It is probably just the pan. And on this vehicle, I think that you can get the lower pan off without dropping the suspension or anything else like that. So it shouldn't be terribly expensive. And if you ever decide that you want me to do it, let me know, of course. But other than that, I want to thank Kludge Media today. He's behind the camera right now for being here and shooting all of this. I hope the footage that I've shot on the GoPro itself was great. He does much better footage, but I had to do a couple of late nights. For example, I was up till 3 a.m. working on this last night. So he's not going to be here until 3 a.m. as much as I wanted to be. So if there's any footage that doesn't look the best, it's probably my fault, and I apologize in advance. So anyway, Eric with Deutsche Auto Garage, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. And Mr. Noah Clark here, thank you for your business and everything. And we will see you on the next one.
All right.